It's cloud native. I have a new friend, Martin
Hey.
Lippert.
Hey, Andrew.
He's in Germany, and I'm in Los Angeles. So we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the stuff you're working on, some of the stuff that excites you, and then obviously we're building up to SpringOne in just less than a month now. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're into, and we'll kind of talk through some of the stuff that I don't know. I think it's exciting actually, and you have a very kind of unique angle on some of the stuff that's going on because of what you work on.
Sure, great. Thanks for having me. Hey, I'm Martin. I work on the Spring engineering team, and my work is based on or focused on the Spring tooling for Eclipse. So what we do and what I do in my daily work is build the Spring IDE and the Spring tool suite and all the nice integrations for TC Server and Cloud Foundry and all the other stuff. And we build that for Eclipse to get great developer tooling for Spring into the IDE.
So you have a long history working on IDEs. What were you doing before you got onto the Spring team?
Yeah, I think before I got onto the Spring team, actually my life was divided into two parts. So one part was doing Agile consultancy and then founded my own Agile company. And the other part of my life was focusing on Eclipse from its early days, right? From Eclipse version 1.0 even. Which is really a long time ago. So I was fascinated by this IDE and by the architecture of the IDE and by the tooling that it provided. So I spent a lot of time working with it and trying to understand how it works and trying to build additions and extensions for it. And that's actually the way I got into the Spring team, because the team that was doing the Spring IDE, which is an extension to Eclipse, asked me to join the team and help them to build great Spring tooling for Eclipse, and that's how I got there.
So not very many people work on these kind of tools. What do you like about working on IDEs, or what's the motivation there?
I really love to build something that helps hundreds of thousands of people out there using Spring in their day-to-day life as a developer. That's really what fascinates me and what motivates me every day. Because I think, I don't know, if we spend a day or a week or a month in building something really cool into the IDE, that could really help you and help every Spring developer in the world who's at least using Eclipse, and saves time, makes life more fun, makes it easier to build Spring apps, makes it easier to learn Spring apps. And that's what I really like. I really love to help those guys out there and then make their lives easier.
So is there kind of a community around this where people are using it and they're talking to each other and talking to you about things they'd like to see?
Yeah, to a certain degree, yes, but it's as usual, or as I think often in these kind of open source worlds, it's sometimes a little bit difficult because sometimes you ship a new release of the Spring Tool Suite and then people get excited about it and people tweet about, hey, look, this is awesome, or this is cool stuff. Especially last time when we shipped a great new feature and a great new addition to the Spring Tool Suite, something totally new, which was the Spring Boot dashboard, helping people to deal with many applications inside of the IDE and many microservice kind of applications using Spring Boot. We got a lot of positive feedback for that, but yeah, that's...
Let's talk about that. What is the new things are coming, or what are you thinking about? Like the software development's changed a lot since Eclipse was born. And so how is that impacting? How are you guys thinking about this problem? What are you making easier? What are you providing for the developer?
Yeah, actually that's a very good point, because I think kind of the way the IDE is designed is, I don't know, 15 years ago or 20 years old already. So business apps and enterprise apps, they have changed dramatically. Right now you build these kind of microservice apps and cloud native apps, and they consist out of hundreds or maybe thousands of microservices, tiny little pieces. So I think this changes the way you deal with your IDE and with your projects, because you may end up dealing with many projects. You end up dealing with many small projects, not this one big, let's say, war kind of web project that you start up inside of your IDE and is self-contained and has everything in it. Now we have many projects in your IDE. You have many of them running all the time, right? You're not just starting them and then stopping them and then coding for a few hours and then restart them. It's like you have them all running all the time and restart a few of them, you restart them quickly, you change your code. And I think this kind of affects the way the IDE should work. And that's why we built this Spring Boot dashboard into the Spring Tool Suite, which is really focused on Spring Boot apps and microservice apps, and helps you to deal with even a large number of microservice, small projects inside of your workspace. And that's, I think, really cool. It's a really big step forward.
So your SpringOne talk is called Next Level Spring Boot Tooling. And I assume it's going to be kind of talking about some of the stuff you just mentioned. So
yeah.
Without giving too much away, kind of what would someone learn if they come and see you talk in Las Vegas?
Oh, I think we will cover more or less everything you need to know, all the nice features of your IDE if you want to do Spring Boot development, right? If you want to start with the Spring Boot app, how to get started quickly, how to code efficiently inside of Eclipse using Spring Tool Suite, using Spring IDE for a Spring Boot app, all the tiny little bits and pieces that helps you, makes your life easier, from awesome, great new content that we built in for editing property files and doing quick fixes in there. I think it's covering the story of starting up with a boot project, ending up with a kind of a full-featured microservice application running on Cloud Foundry. And we show you all the tiny, nice little things along that way that helps you and makes your life easier. And that's, I think, the story that we will cover in the talk, showing you, I think, lots of small features, not this one big thing, but lots of small features along that way that really helps you and makes your life easier.
Because it's all about making life easier.
Yeah. So then, as I said, I guess maybe.
What are you most looking forward to at the conference?
Actually, for me, it's always great to see all the people and meet all the people and get in contact with the audience and with the people using the tool suite. It's one of these rare cases where I can really meet the people and meet a huge crowd of people using the Spring Tool Suite, getting direct feedback, talking to them, and collecting more ideas about additional features, pain points, what maybe doesn't work, and what can we do better in the future. I think that's great. That's one part. And the other part, when I take a look at the program, I'm really very much looking forward to these reactive talks, reactive programming, project reactor, and all those things. That's really cool, I think.
Does that reactive stuff change how you think about the IDEs as well? Or do you think that, because as you go to like this asynchronous message passing, is there some way to give people more insight into what is going on in those kind of systems from the IDE perspective, or you think that's just a ways out?
First of all, I think to me, it's just interesting. It's kind of in a different style, and I really like that. We are already using that inside of the IDE for bits and pieces that we implemented. But it's more inside of the IDE. And I think these kind of reactive message passing style could also change the way you build IDEs in the future, maybe. So for us, as kind of the toolsmith guys and the company building the IDEs, I think that will also change the way we build the IDEs in the future, and maybe we can present more stuff based on that next year.
So you're saying that the IDEs themselves are becoming these decoupled distributed systems?
Yeah, I think in the past, or even today, even if these kind of plugin architectures for IntelliJ or Eclipse, it's still more or less one big block and kind of a little bit separated and decoupled inside, but it's not really decoupled in terms of microservices or these modern architectures. And I think it would be a huge benefit to really decouple and extract specific parts out of the IDEs and put them into really service-like architectures and really kind of microservices and decompose them. And there's kind of a development going on in the IDE community at the moment to extract, for example, language services into their own headless processes that are then just kind of being used by the IDE or by an editor or by a web editor or by a cloud IDE or whatever, so that you kind of build, for example, a Java language service just once without really knowing that you're building it for Eclipse or building it for IntelliJ or building it for a cloud IDE. You're just focusing on the real features.
So you're going to be able to decouple the services from their actual user interfaces, and then like opens up a bunch of other possibilities and doesn't all have to run locally.
Yeah. Maybe in the first place it will run locally, so everything might run locally because it's fast, right? No latency and stuff like that. So it really gives you a great user experience when you code, because people really like, for example, get conferences really quickly within milliseconds while they are typing, and not waiting for the cloud to give them a response while they're typing.
But it makes me unhappy if I have to wait too long, for sure.
Yeah, me too. But it opens up a lot of interesting possibilities for additional services and additional kind of turning the IDE slowly into and connecting it to the cloud world, into a kind of a cloud native architecture, because that could open up a lot of interesting possibilities for IDEs.
Absolutely, it's all about the possibilities. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing you specifically. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna have some food. We're gonna have some drink. We're gonna talk about Java. We're gonna talk about IDEs. I'll see you in a month. Thanks for coming in and having this chat.
Thanks. See you.
Cheers.